Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner. Thank you for joining us again this week. So today I've got a special guest on the podcast with me. His name is Grant Doubell. He is a good friend of mine. We've been buddies for a little while. And he is also a contractor in the same space, and thought it'd be great to bring him on. He's got a really cool backstory of how he got into this and his transition to the States. He's from South Africa, and you'll probably tell that from a slight accent as he starts talking. But today we're going to talk about his story, kind of interview him a little bit, and get to know really what I think is pretty intriguing. You know, what's different about the U.S. and how construction works here versus in other countries. What did you have to learn? What changed when you came here? So I'm pretty excited to jump in with you. So welcome to the show, Grant.
Thanks for having me. Only a slight accent.
Only a slight accent.
Yeah.
Can you do an American accent?
I mean, I can. I'm not going to now.
I can't do a South African accent.
You try.
No. If you do, we'll do the whole interview trying our terrible accents.
Cool.
All right. So, Grant, you born and raised in South Africa. Kind of give us the backstory. Tell us how you got into construction, what it was like, you know, when, what age, how did you get into this? Was this something your dad was doing and you kind of followed his footsteps? Was this something that, you know, you just got into because you went to school for it? Like, what's your origin story in getting into the industry?
Sure. So probably quite typical of a lot of contractors. It was kind of not the main plan.
Yeah.
You know, it's not what was going to happen. So kind of finished high school, went to university. At the back of university, landed up joining father's business.
Yeah.
And literally, you know, my dad was doing proper real estate development. And I went to him, I'm like, cool, now what? And he said, well, I've got a space. You can come be a site superintendent, join the guy that's building for us.
Yeah.
And kind of just step in, get in the trenches. So literally from, and I could go back a little, kind of university was like investment management, ecos, et cetera, et cetera. But
did you go there with a mindset to get into this, or was it like just go to school because that's what I'm going to do and figure it out from there?
Exactly. So not at all the plan.
Yeah.
And I won't lie, it's definitely put me in good stead down the way. Good understanding of money and what comes with it in the kind of financial aspects of construction.
Yeah.
But I certainly didn't expect to go from there to getting into the trenches and digging holes and making sure the concrete was kind of set to the levels it needed to be, etc. You know,
Yeah.
So very much rudimentary beginning or start from the ground. You know,
Was your dad? Was it his company, or was he working for a larger company?
it was his company, but he kind of did it on the side. He ran a large property, a real estate newspaper.
Yeah.
And it was kind of. It sort of made sense for him just to buy land and develop it on the side.
Yeah.
And so he would get a typical kind of contractor scenario where a contractor comes in and builds, he'd just be the developer.
Yeah.
And then I got involved with him on that. And then I worked with him for probably 8 years, working in that space before starting my own GC business.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? Tell us about that. What prompted you to start a GC business versus going to work for one of the other GCs in the area?
So I don't think I've ever really worked for someone, as in the sense of like, what's the terminology at W-2?
Yeah.
Like kind of direct employee. So it's not something I was used to. I'd worked with him for so long, probably picked up a couple bad habits along the way of like how to do it and how not to do it, as far as employees go.
Sure.
And a friend from high school, an interior designer, actually came to me and was like, hey, I want to start a thing. And so we bounced around the idea. I thought I'd set him up in business, and down the way it turned into me leaving my father's business, joining him. My father was actually a partner in that business for a period of time.
Okay.
It's called Ground Up. The South African business is called Ground Up, so is the American one. Joined a guy named Tyler. We jumped in, got going together, and the rest was history. You know, he was in the business for a little while, but left probably a year or two later, and then it ended up just being me. Kind of separated it out.
Was this late 20s, early 30s? When was this?
So this was around 2010.
Okay.
I'd been in a number of other businesses, from marketing and selling spare parts like trucks and buses to, all kinds of different things. But that was kind of at the same time as the development business with my dad.
Yeah.
And then when it became Ground Up, it became Ground Up. Like that was the main kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of that, like, stick to the main thing concept.
Yeah.
that's where we got to.
Cool. What's you started your own company with Tyler. You started going. What was that like? Was it? Did you feel? Was it successful the first year? Did it start going well? Was it just kind of shooting from the hip and we're hunting and eating what we hunt and that's about it right now? Like what was that experience?
It's funny because it's like go deep quickly. It's like those first couple of years are. Those first couple of years are hard. It's like lifestyle business. We're going to like figure out how we go as we go.
Yep.
It was good, but he was kind of out of the business quicker than we got going and got kind of running.
Yeah.
So the first years, you pick up a job because a friend's mom needs something done, and you're like, hey, we can do that.
Yeah.
It's like, can you really? We're like,
I can find someone to do it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like, can you? And that's very much the South African way. It's like, we'll step into, and I've mentioned some of this, it's like you'll do residential and commercial, and people are like, how? And you're like, well, you just kind of do whatever someone asks you if you can.
Yeah.
And if it's kind of within your wheelhouse, you'll figure it out, you'll get it done. So started off with, small add-ons to houses, like additions, and then small remodels, and then it just kind of grew legs as it went. As I say, when Tyler left the business, it was a matter of like, hey man, I want out. And we're like, okay, let's look at the numbers. We looked at the numbers together. We're like, cool, let's shake hands. We'll just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Kind of separated from there, and the rest was history, Cool. So
what's I know that you came over to Georgia
end of 22.
22.
Yeah.
So about 3 to 4 years ago.
Yeah,
3. I'm good at math. So when that happened, that transition, I know that you still have business in South Africa.
Sure.
What kind of bring us in on that transition, entering into the U.S. market and kind of getting your feet wet? What was shocking to you? What was kind of the like, whoa, this is different, or hey, this is exactly the same. It runs the same. Kind of give us the play-by-play on that when you're coming over here, coming for the first time, second time after visiting, when you're moving your whole family here and kids and all that stuff. What was shocking to the system? What was kind of, oh, this feels like home?
So I think I was quite well prepared for that exact thing, because everyone that heard that I was going to come and start working here was like, well, how do you do it? It's feet and inches, it's centimeters and millimeters. Like, they build it differently. We build brick and mortar, and in Georgia, a lot of it is kind of stick frame, as an example. But in the kind of project management processes of what come down to what construction is, the ceiling is the ceiling and the wall is the wall. So when you're kind of planning and scheduling, that's not that difficult to kind of get your head around. But I think I mentioned this the other day. The first job I ever did over here, the guys that arrived to start framing literally didn't know what they were doing with regard to setting out and all the rest. And I was like, well, here we go. This is the crash course, So, I was surprised at how quickly I could pick that up. And that's not a me thing. I think just anyone, you just pick it up quickly. Math is math, and, you'll get there. The terminology is interesting. It's like, everyone talks about sheetrock as if sheetrock is a thing as opposed to a brand, Am I correct in saying
like
that sheetrock
Kleenex,
is a brand, right?
Like Kleenex is a tissue.
Exactly.
Or sheetrock is drywall, but everyone calls it sheetrock.
Correct. And so like in South Africa, everyone talks about rhinolite, which is like a skimming compound. No one talks about skimming compound. It's rhinolite. And so the same thing here, there's some kind of nuance or some lingo that's in the trade.
Yeah.
And that'll be state by state, and that'll be company by company. But, those are the things that someone says something and you stop and you look for a moment, you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like my accent. The first sentence, people think I'm speaking a different language altogether, and then like, oh, it's actually English. And then it's helpful, I suppose.
Yeah. So coming over, getting your first job, meeting those guys, starting to something brand new here.
Sure.
Were there any other hurdles that you had to jump over? Paperwork, that sort of thing, red tape from the government, and anything that was difficult for you, or was it kind of very similar and you just kind of Googled it and figured it out and you're good to go?
So fortunately, my wife's a citizen, so life is super easy in that regard. So there was a period of time where I was running. I had a business in South Africa running. I was living here. And, it was like checking in on your business that you can't go and visit and you can't go and do anything
3 a.m.
on.
our
And,
time.
So 6 hour time difference, all remote, it's an interesting kind of time. So anyway, that was like probably a 9 to 12 month period. And then I opened the same version of the business. It's very creative. I literally took the same logo, the same brand, and replicated it here.
Yeah.
I took out all the U's because, in America, there's no U's.
You guys had U's everywhere.
Exactly.
Color.
So we just color. Literally, I can't say color to Siri without it coming up with some random words. But so copy paste a business over here, started. Kind of got going, the stuff that you have to figure out as you go. It's all different, except it's all the same.
Yeah.
You kind of do your thing. You have the same challenges. It's like, where do you go find your customer? Figure that out. A lot of it is referral based. Figure that out. A lot of it is like...
Well, and you don't have the connections here that you did in South Africa. So the referral base is kind of like starting from the beginning, like trying to find those referrals. And how do you get into the weeds with people in the area to refer stuff to you?
Sure. And there's a common phrase. It's like your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
And I think in construction that is like tremendously true.
Yeah.
And so I was a guy doing a thing in Johannesburg, South Africa, where there was almost, I don't want to say there's nothing I couldn't solve, but it was like, if we ran into an issue and doing business there is different, like the city's different, the council's different, like it's just a different animal altogether.
Yeah.
If someone needed something done and they phoned me, I could probably get them close to an answer if I couldn't do it myself,
Yeah.
Then you get here and it's like, oh, that's what we've got to do. And then you stop and think about it. Like you forget about the 20 years of experience that you have in an industry because it just becomes second nature.
Yeah.
And so you get here and you have that question thrown at you. It's like, oh, what do you think about this? You're like, this is not the right answer because it's going to come across differently.
Do you almost I would feel second guessing everything because it's like, what do I not know? Like what I know I don't know something. Like what should I look up to figure out the answer? Was that any?
Yeah. So it's funny when you're preparing to do a big things, like initially it was a sabbatical and then it was like, we like it here. And then we're like, how do we stay? Like, what does that look like? So in the planning to get to the US, you run through that quadrant and you finally get to the one that is the unknown. And the same applied in work, so I'd start working over here and someone asks you a question. It's like completely left field and you're like not sure how to answer it at first. And then I won't lie, AI came at a perfect time. It's pretty easy to solve almost any problem. You know? It's like hop online and figure out what you need to in like terminology.
Yep.
As soon as you realize that it's the same thing, that boundary is gone.
Yeah.
You then probably come with a unique perspective because then all of a sudden you're coming from that different place of South Africa is like a scarce mindset or like scarcity mindset. It's like a huge thing there compared to this abundance thing here, which is amazing, I must say. The people that have helped me set up have been like extremely open to help. But the unique thing and the value there is, when someone says, hey, what are we going to do here? I'm thinking a completely different way. Like I come with this probably incorrect but different thought process. And if people take the time to be part of that, or if I can get to where they are quickly, we can come up with a different kind of solution to what a problem is.
Do you have an example of that?
We might have to loop back here, but if so a couple of things come to mind, but one is like just the procurement process. You know, I would 100% get 3 quotes, maybe 95% get 3 quotes on everything I do, whereas a lot of guys here have like got their guys, they've got their teams, they've got their people. And it's not to say that your guys don't get the work, of course not. But you do want to have a kind of a backup plan. Mm-hmm. You want to have a team of people you can call on so that you've got different kind of levels of trade and different levels of things. When you're running a project, you're not often going to have A+ players on every kind of trade. Yeah. And that's not to say you want to have a C grade player, but at the same time, you can have a B if you've got all A+. Yeah. And you want to have that kind of backup. So, it's probably unique. None of it is a matter of trying to like reinvent the wheel of how you do it. But I look at it from a cost perspective that, often it's in the favor of the client.
Yeah. Well, one thing and question about it is this kind of standard across South Africa or is this how you ran things? But you from our conversations, talking business, you are way more of like a client rep, right? You set yourself up as a client advocate to where you're their representative, which is the way Prostruct is set up. That's the whole coaching model of like, if I can get them on my side, coach, be their advocate, protect their money, protect their investment, then I got a long-term relationship with them, which is how you operate.
Sure.
But most GCs in the U.S. operate the opposite. They're boys. They're the good old boys. I got my cabinet guy, I got my trim guy, and that's who I use. And it's me and my guys versus the client, where we're trying to get money out of the client, me and my guys, where we're trying to, the whole coaching that we do is I'm your advocate. It's me and the client against the crews, where I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to make sure that everything is done well, which is how you set your company up. Is that standard kind of in South Africa with that, or is it kind of the same as the U.S. down there, where there's most of the guys are them and their company with their guys versus having 3 bids and having kind of more of the client rep mindset?
Sure. So there's a bunch in there. It depends what work I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I consult to some companies over here, as you'll know. And when I'm consulting, if I consult as an owner's representative, I'm kind of, I'm on the owner's team.
For sure, yeah.
And I'm
It's
bringing
black and white.
everything I
That's what you
know
are.
about construction to make sure that a contractor is just doing what they said they would do.
Yeah.
I am, the value there is that I'm able to look at what they're doing with a different perspective. I'm like, I've worn your hat before. So when this is unfair on you, I can protect you. But at the same time, don't do it dirty on the client, because I'm here to protect their interests, you know? And so that probably just keeps things transparent and honest. As far as how I set myself up in a GC perspective, this is like it's almost like a coined phrase within Ground Up South Africa. It's like, we partner with the client, we partner with the supplier, and we literally sit in, like, core values are literally PARTNER. It's like a little bit embarrassing that's what it came down to. It's like P for professional, it's like, it's where we go. In there is transparent, etc. So, we sit in this space where it's like, this client's trying to achieve something. How do we partner with them to help them get to where they're trying to go? And in that is quality time, money, there's all those usual things. But then on the other side of it, we're looking at suppliers, we're building a team in advance. We're saying, there's 3 quotes coming in, but early on, who it is, and we'll work with these guys. A lot of those subs know each other. I'd have like a Christmas dinner at the end of the year and I have my suppliers come and have dinner together, because I want plumber A to know plumber B, and he's not taking food off his table. He's making sure that he can cover the base so that I'm not losing work when it's necessary because he wasn't available, so you can move quicker, you can do all those things. But again, talking to the kind of residential and commercial aspect, I've always said, and it's funny because here I've got to be so careful if I don't have time like this on a podcast to explain myself, I've got to be careful how it lands. Because if I say I do commercial and residential, people are like, well, which one are you good at,
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that a residential mindset and kind of consideration of a client adds value in commercial, where commercial is just like bang, 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 get it done. But then in a residential environment, when you can come with a commercial mindset and you're like, I'm actually worrying about dollars and cents. I'm like looking at what this thing costs. I'm not saying take away from the sub. Like, you want a guy to be able to fix a problem because he can afford to, because he made enough money in the job. And so fair and reasonable. But you do still need to have process, should I say, that is able to take you from residential to commercial and back, So we will specialize more as time goes on, but where we sit at the moment is that like happy hybrid between the two.
Yeah. Well, and I know some of the commercial stuff you've done is more kind of residential style, where it's more hands-on designer, where
it's like not design build out, like design build turnkey,
some tenant
build
improvements,
out.
design build out type stuff with that which is more homeowner centric, more residential style in terms of selections and picking this out and caring about colors.
And that's probably close to how we got there. It's like people were looking along the design line, and it's funny. It's like I get to call international design, but it's is that what they're like in South Africa? But it's like people wanted to bring their homes into their office space, and so we just naturally grew into that space because we knew how to do it well.
Well, and the beauty of it too is the reverse is like commercial is 90% pre-construction work. Like it's all planning. That's
Sure.
all commercial is, which that's where most residential guys miss it. Is they say, I got a signature, get the crew, let's get on site and we'll figure it out as we go. And that's where you lose your money, you lose your time, you lose everything messes up when you don't plan. And so that's the way you run is very similar to the way I coach in terms of like, we need to do the residential front end like commercial and the commercial back end like residential. I want my commercial to be handheld where it's very service oriented client. Even if I'm building a warehouse, like I want it still ran the way to where I can satisfy and appease the customer
Sure.
on the commercial side and where they're impressed with the project, not cool, it got done, on to the next. And then on the residential, I want to have more commercial front end where I want it planned. I want my pre-construction phase to be where I spend 90% of my time. So when the hammer starts swinging, it's knock it down, right? And we know exactly what we're doing. No decisions, no fire drills with the customer on week 7 about, hey, we got to do this, and what about this, and have you picked out your paint colors, and have you like all of that stuff is where we get it wrong. And the residential side is not planning for it. So I think that was something that I noticed when we were talking about how you run your company. It's like it's very. It's a good balance of the residential commercial in terms of kind of right in that sweet spot between the two.
Absolutely. And linked to that, as you're saying it, it's like, I've thought about this before. I haven't thought about it for long. The client, residential or not, comes in wanting it to be commercially minded.
Yeah.
Whether they want to be in for Christmas or they want to just get into their house, there's like something in their mind that links back to time and a schedule.
Yeah.
Schedule. You've then got, you've got the money aspect. They are a little bit more relaxed on how much they're going to spend, but they want to be in charge of the extra spend, the part that you're in charge of. And like that's something that I'll take deep pride in. It's like the aspects that I can control budget wise.
Yeah.
We used to have like a 1% overrun over like a 5-year period over like 50 projects or whatever it was on things we controlled, like brick, paint, like the things that you had no say in as a client.
Yeah, builder materials.
But then when it comes to provisional sums and all of the things that they get a say in, they want to be able to say, I like that faucet, but I want this one. I don't get to say no to that. I say, sure, of course you can have it, unless it's going to affect the schedule or the quality or the,
Yeah.
So if they're aware of the budget increase, that's fine, but they still commercially want you to be thinking about money.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of guys in residential, I find, get into that space of like, well, it's residential, it's chilled, it's going to be fine. Like no one's really too concerned about it, except that the client's specific interest is all the commercials,
Yeah, and that's how they get pissed off at the end and never use you again and never recommend you because you didn't run it that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So going back to your story, landing here, getting started, going from a sabbatical to living here and starting the company, what was kind of the pros and cons of that? I mean, it's almost a full reset. Like you're starting a new company, even though you already built a company.
Sure.
What was, tell me that experience.
Sure. So the pros and cons are like 10 years into business. And like, this is not specifically pros and cons, but it's fact, 10 years into business. I'm running this thing on my own by then. Things are looking good. We teed up nicely. It's 2019. I've got got a contract for 250 clinics, small, but like 250 clinics. They're about to roll out.
Yeah.
And COVID happens, obviously. And I sit in this space where I've received some money up front. I've taken deposits from clients. Some of them wanted to pay up front and, whatever. I've got clients' money in their account. I've got terms set up with my suppliers, and South Africa goes into a lockdown. The lockdown is that, and for many good and bad reasons, like different circumstances, people live in different ways there. Construction was not an essential service.
Yeah.
And so I try to pivot or be agile, all the terms we knew were right.
Yeah.
Try to become like a maintenance business that could run on my app, like used a boardroom booking system as a quick app fix.
Yeah.
I think I made like 585 Rand. To give you context, it's like 1 cent, I don't know, 5 cents, 15 cents. In 3 months, I literally couldn't give a design job away. I was trying to give free design away because I knew that if we came back with things designed, we'd be able to get into construction.
Yeah.
And so for 3 months, we didn't build anything, had no earning, couldn't give a job away.
Yeah.
And so,
and at the beginning of COVID, it was like, oh, we're just 2 weeks away. We're a week, one more week of everyone staying inside, and then we'll be good.
I mean, man, people spoke about 18 months, and I was like, you're all lunatics.
Yeah.
There's no way.
There's no way. They won't do that. The government won't do. And so, yeah, we were, I mean, what you just said is so funny. It's like, well, let's just get the designs going because next month we'll hit go on the construction and we'll be good to go.
Yeah. And on the client side, they're like, I can design it for free and waste my time or be with my kids because I don't know when I'm going to come back. So anyway, we go through that process. I run out of supplier terms because I pay as many people as I can possibly pay. Our working capital, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, that wasn't what I thought it was. Our cash flow is just no longer the thing that it resembled, you know. And so anyway, reset, need to start again. And one of the things, you know, you've probably heard me say this to you sometimes. It's like we had 100 reasons between the US and South Africa, and there were like 51 in favor of the US by the time we decided. It's not like, you know, it wasn't this grass greener story. One of the reasons was we had to reset. And if I'm going to start again, you know, in inverted commas, start again 20 years down the line, do I do it in rand or dollar? And I was like, this makes a bunch of sense. So came over here, got to restart, whether I like it or not. You know, I'll never actually forget. I remember talking to a business coach of mine, an exceptional guy, really, really good influence on my life, really valuable resource. He says, you know, you're not starting again. You're taking a 20-year head start and then starting. He's like, think about 20 years ago when you started, you really knew nothing. The fast track will be easier. And he was mostly right. But, you know, you bring all the lessons with you as you go, and then you get to leave the ones behind and you get to choose again, you know. So that was a worthwhile process, you know, go and cut through it all, bring the secret sauce, you know, like what are the things that were worth bringing? You know, what are the coffee stains that your business had? Like what are the things that you just, you know, you got known for that you're not good at, that people forgave you for because they liked you. You know, it's like people would phone my phone because it was Grant, not necessarily because it was ground up, and, you know, remove the coffee stain out of your business, the thing that upsets people. Like I got to think about those things. I got to process all of that and run through if I reset, what do I leave behind? Like, what are the mistakes that I didn't even know that I knew, you know, or had learned?
Well, what did you find? What were those? What were your coffee stains? What were the things that you feel like you were able to reset? Kind of white erase board, get it out of here, get rid of that. The way I operated, the way I did. What were there any? Like, give us some of the details of those lessons.
Sure. So the coffee stain concept is, you know, I'm sitting in a learning. I used to be a member of a thing called Entrepreneurs Organization, and one of the ladies that was in that, one of the members that was in it with us, was a coach. And she's doing this learning day, and she's talking about coffee stains in your business. And at first, I'm like, this is an interesting concept. And then it's like, cool, so what are your coffee stains? And I was like, wow, now we're getting honest. Like, what's the thing about me and my business that I don't like? And I'm like, we are definitely slow to quote. You know, someone's like, hey, can you come put this proposal together? I'm like, of course. I'm there within like 30 minutes. I chat to you, we're like, this is on. I'm like on fire for it. I'm excited for it. ADHD is probably kicking in at some point. I'm like, this is all dopamine, you know? And then you get back into the rhythm of the things you've got to get done. And the next thing, it's like a week later, they're like, hey, what's happening with the quote? And you're like, I'm nearly there. I'm like, I mean, you know, it hasn't left the mind, but you're like, it's there. Like after 2 weeks, you're like, I can't believe another week's gone. But it's just, you know, how you prioritize that. And where I got it wrong is that, you know, no client of mine now wants to hear this, but I'll say it anyway. Like, I always took the approach of the person paying me today gets all my attention, except that never protected my business for the future because I was so stuck in the project I was in because I felt I owed it to that client. And it's not that you don't owe it to that client or that I don't owe it to that client. It's that there's a definite hybrid version somewhere in between where you can block out time and you can go focus on the thing. So to answer the question, the coffee stain was slow to quote. Another one was slow to get a final account out. You know, the process of wrapping that all up at the end was always so hard to do. And I wrote off tons of money over the years in that exact thing. You know, by the time you come to a client and you're like, hey man, you owe us this money, and they're looking at you, they're like, who are you again? You know, like that's too long, you know? So getting yourself build to the point that, you know, you're sitting at punch or called a snag in South Africa and many other places, like probably everywhere except the US.
Calls it a snag, the punch?
Snag meeting, you know, the punch meeting, snag list. So there's one, you know,
I'll
first time someone spoke about the punch list, I was like, where are we going here?
Someone's hitting me, what's a punch?
Exactly. So, and every now and then, like I'll drop the snag thing and I see someone look at me and I immediately change to punch and I don't admit that I got anything wrong, you know? But if you're leaving more than your retainage out there, that's your fault.
Yeah.
And it was my fault, and I had to own a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like you start looking at it, you're like, wow, I'm so hard done by. These people didn't pay. And then I'm like, they didn't pay, and that's true, and it's not okay, but how much of this can I get to take ownership of? So there's a lot of that kind of thing where you stop and look at it again. The things you take with you realize quickly that as a contractor, like number one on the list of things you should have to learn before you can be a GC is financial management. Yeah. Like to not know where your numbers are, to not know how much money you have, to not know what your cash flow conversion cycle looks like, to think that this client's money, because it's positive in your bank, is your money, is just, and no one's trying to do that. Yeah. But if you don't have a great base and understanding of it, it's just so easy to fall into that trap.
The problem, and what makes construction different than almost any other thing is that the way you start the company is not the way you can grow a company, right?
Sure.
You always fall back. Like when I'm running a job by myself, when I was starting my company, like I go out and do the work, I find a job, I get money, and I'm on that job. So all of those processes, all the financial management, all that's in my head because I'm on one job, and it's easy to know it. And okay, all the money in this account, I got to spend this, and I got to spend this. So I got $2,000 left in it that I can take out myself. Great, done. You can't scale that way though, and the problem is guys do it that way. They start working that way, and it makes sense for them that way, and that's just the foundation that they built. And then you start adding more jobs and more jobs and more jobs. They start hiring project managers, which are really glorified assistants. Yeah. And those guys are now supposed to run it, but they don't have the same mechanics in their brain that you do. And so your assistant, who is now running projects for you, isn't looking at the dollars that you're looking at. They're just saying money in, money out, good, I'm good to go. And those companies crash because there's no financial management, there's no knowledge, there's no controls as the owner to run. But you don't realize that till it's too late.
Sure.
And so that's one of my, I love the coffee stain concept. I'm stealing that from you, FYI. But we'll probably talk about it on the retreat, and you're going to be on the retreat too, so that's perfect. I might have you lead that session when we talk about that. But that being said, like I think that's part of it too, of all of those coffee stains that people have that their companies are known for, that's kind of left behind when they're done. No one purposefully sets that up. Like that's not a choice. That's not a, hey, you know what? I'm just not going to get back to people on estimates. No, you just don't have a good process in the front end.
Absolutely.
Right? And so figuring out those, and I think that's the beauty of our coaching is let us show you how coffee stains are made, and let's avoid those from the foundation. So let's build on a really well-laid foundation as opposed to let's build it big. Now let's go back, tear out your foundation, and rebuild the foundation underneath the house that you've built.
Exactly.
You can't, right? And so that I love that concept, the coffee stain, where you can kind of look back at it because it's like that's where you get stuck, where you get known for, and what ends up ending your company or really preventing your growth. Because it's like, sure. I like Grant. Grant's a good dude. I'm always going to have Grant do my renovations that I need. I'm not going to tell my neighbors about Grant because I don't want them to have to deal with what I've dealt with, but I'm fine with dealing with it.
Yeah.
Right. I think the one of the worst things you can be in construction is a good company, not a great company. Because a good construction company is a company that is good at giving you the product. My kitchens are the most beautiful kitchens. You're not going to get another person put a kitchen in better. It was hard to get numbers from me. It was hard to communicate. You never knew when my guys are going to be there. Throughout the process, you didn't know what was going on as my customer. No matter how good my kitchen is, it's a great kitchen, but you're not going to refer me to anybody. I got no word of mouth coming because you're like, yeah, I'll deal with him, but I'm not going to have my mom deal with him. I'm not going to have my neighbor deal with him. And so I think being a really good company like that, but with no processes in place, is kind of the purgatory that companies get into, where it's like, I've hit a ceiling. I can't grow. I can't do anything else with my company because I don't understand why, but I'm working harder, making less than I did last year. And I'm working more and I'm hunting this, and I can't seem to get clients, and I can't. And it's like, well, that's because we've got this stain, right? We've got this coffee stain on your company, and the foundation's built wrong. Yeah. And so we got to tear everything down to redo that foundation and build it up again. And do you have the heart and the gut to go through that, right? And I think that's the hard part with companies. A bad company goes out of business pretty quickly. A good company stays in business for 20 years and doesn't grow. And that's what I'm trying to avoid when I'm coaching guys, is like, I want you to be a great company.
Sure.
I want you to be a company that grows strategically. We know where your dollars are. And one of the big things with that is like, most guys in our industry, when I get there, I'll start doing that. I'll start my QuickBooks when I get to this level, when I start going beyond 2 jobs at a time. The problem is you're never going to get there until you build a foundation to get there on.
Sure.
And it's like you have to act like a big company before you become a big company.
100%.
You can't just start as a big, good, great company. It's like, no, you got to act like that before you have your processes in place. So when you start going, just gas on the fire and it's growing.
That concept of having doing big business and small business that really, really helped. And like going back a little bit to what I could bring with me, the South African way is, at the biggest, my company had 60 people in it.
Yeah.
A lot of that is site staff and guys that are kind of on the ground doing the labor.
Sure.
But because the economy of what that is that you can afford more people, but you then have to go and hunt for work to make sure there's somewhere for those guys to go.
Yeah.
But the background of it is that you just have different things to focus on. And so there's always someone new coming in, there's always change. And having a playbook that you can get back to goes a long way.
Yeah.
But the piece you're saying there about like big business and small business, I ran a bigger business. And so I bring those lessons with me when I start now.
Yeah.
I've always believed it. But I'll also say, you can go the route of building this big business and you can also still get it wrong. And linked to that is, I thought I was going to scale this business and turn it into this most scalable thing, but I forgot to take profit out along the way. And that's such an easy trap to fall into as well.
I'm reinvesting. I'm just going to reinvest. Yeah.
You typically put everything back in. It's probably into a bit of dirt. It's into some real estate. It's those sorts of things. But the truth is that those markets change as well. And so, be cautioned as to where you put them.
Yeah.
But that concept of, I'm going to take every cent the business makes, every dollar goes back into the business. You get to the end of it. If things do turn, if things do go wrong, if there's another COVID event and you stop and look, you're like, oh, wow, everything was in there and then it got decided for me, So being able to take that project money out in projects as you go along the way is something that I would, I'll never make that mistake again.
Yeah.
And anyone that ever asks me, I'll go out of my way to try and help them with that. And that's not to say don't scale. And it's not to say don't prepare for the future. It's just like, don't grow faster than you have to.
Yeah.
Don't like get to when you need QuickBooks and then decide you do. Have that in place and running, because that's low cost to be prepared and running well. Yeah. But you don't need 30 staff to open your doors.
Don't go hire an office manager and a day one like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's kind of the thought of like, I'm trying to get to the horizon, and if I have no plan and I've never been to the horizon before, like most guys starting companies, they're just wandering through the woods, and you're going left and going right and kind of going opportunistic, right? I got this, and so now I'm going to try a commercial job, and now I'm going to do investment properties, and I might flip one myself, and I'm going to do, and it's like they're wandering through the woods with no game plan and path. And I think that's the one, with you restarting in the U.S., you've been to the horizon in South Africa. And so you kind of understand, this is a better way to walk that path. And I think that's what coaching does for guys too, is like on my side, I'm like, listen, I've gotten to the horizon and I've made every wrong turn on the way there. Let me show you kind of the path and let's walk through that. Let me be a guide on that path. I'm not walking it for you, but I'll guide you down it. And so I think that's kind of the big, like if we build it with a goal of what that horizon feels like to where the structure now works when we duplicate to that size, then it's a very smooth and easy path. And it's not a wondering and making a wrong decision. You're going to find the horizon. We all have, and we've all made the hard decisions to get there. Not all, but like with what you did and what I've done, like I took the worst path. I took I've got loans that I took out over 10 years ago that I'm almost done paying back. Right, stuff like that, to where it's like, if we just have more money, let's get it, let's go, let's run, and let's borrow $500,000 and run after this, and we can hire these people and do. And it's like, what are you doing? Like that, like I just wish I could shake Clark of 2010, and 2008.
Well, the interesting thing is that the horizon, and I'm sure you did this intentionally, it's a thing in the distance. It's not like an exact place, right? And so no matter what the horizon is, we each have one.
Yeah.
So even the guy that failed, he's got a horizon that he got to. And if he tells that story back, and this is where coaching is just so valuable, it's like, I've hit the horizon of whatever mine was. Now I get to tell you the story of how to get there fast. And like, I reflect on this as you speak. You know, it took me 20 years to get to a point that we landed up in America.
Yeah.
It took me 20 years to get to a point of whatever my horizon was. And now I've set up again in, realistically, it'll be 2 years at the end of this year that this company has been in existence. And we will be 80% of the way to where we were with the
20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 in 20 kind of thing to do a similar kind of distance in how to set up well, you know. So
you're kind of selling my coaching stuff, but my what I always say to guys, like, I'm not a guru. Like, I'm not, I don't know more than you. You can figure this out in the next 8 to 12 years and get there. Like, let's just expedite that down to 18 months and let me help you kind of navigate that path. Like, let's get that foundation set up and let's get you there. So A, you don't have to have those 6-figure bad decision mistakes that I had to make, but B, like, let's expedite it, and then you're successful in 18 months, not 8 years from now. And let's avoid the pitfalls and the traps that you fall into that you don't realize, where the road looks like I should go left, but in reality, let me tell you the reasons we got to go right. Because this, and this, it's smarter to go right on this decision.
Yeah.
So,
and also, I mean, you know, coaching, you're probably more directional. You're going to tell people, this is how I've seen it. But at the same time, it's an experience share. You know, it's like, this is what I did and how I did it. And the person who's on the other side is either going to do it or not. Yeah. They're going to listen to you and they're going to think about which way they want to go. Yep. I just know what didn't work for me. Yeah. Or at least I know what worked for me for a while. Yep. And sometimes I was too slow to realize that it had changed. Yeah. And that in itself is a whole story. It's like, you know, it's changing in front of you. You are so used to a certain way, instead of stopping and checking in every now and then. You know, like once a quarter, stop and pay attention to the thing that changed in your business. Yeah,
zoom out to 30,000 foot view and look at it.
Exactly.
Actually. Yeah.
And like, am I still the right guy to run this business? You know, am I still the perfect person to be the CEO, the president? Like, if you started it, the chances are it's probably no, if it's a business.
That's true, yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's always the case. And doesn't mean you'll do a terrible job. It just means, like, you know, I love starting businesses personally, like me as Grant. Like, I love starting businesses. Do I love running them indefinitely the same way every day for the rest of my life? I'm like, nah, not really, not so much. Yeah. And that's where projects are joyful. You know, project starts, it ends, you get to see the thing you built. It's like, that feels good. It's amazing. It's great. You're sharing that with the customer. And then you get to go do it all over again. You know?
Yeah. I think that's great. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been great.
Anytime.
If you are coming on the retreat, Grant should be on the retreat. It looks like, I think he's coming on it with us, so you can meet him there. But yeah, it's been fun. Glad to have you. We'll probably have you back at some point to talk about some more specific topics.
Now that people know what my accent sounds like and what I'm actually saying.
Yeah. Well, watch this be a fake accent. You show up, people talk to you, it's not real, but he's from New Jersey, actually. So.
South Georgia.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, good to meet you. Good to talk with you. Thanks for being on the podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.
Cool. Thank you.